Sharing his experience on global sports marketing and Mastercard supporting women's sports, we have Rajamannar, Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at Mastercard, joining us today in a conversation on Storyboard. Raja, welcome to CNBC-TV18.
Thank you, Shivani. And I must also say, you're one of the very few people who have spelled my name correctly, pronounced it correctly the very first time. Thank you.
That's good to know. Tell us about Mastercard's support and association with women's cricket, and why does it interest you as a brand?
See, firstly, I think even before we talk of cricket and women's cricket, you look at the overall gender situation in the world. We have taken it as a company at Mastercard, the agenda of ensuring that there is parity between the genders. So when I joined, for example, Mastercard, most of our sponsorships were predominantly focused on sports for men. The TV campaigns were also focused in a way, when you're sponsoring, for example, a major football, there was a natural selection where probably more men were watching those. So we said both from an audience perspective as well as the events perspective, we were more biased at that time towards men. So we said we need to balance it out. So we started then going into events and various activities, which actually more women follow, either equal to or even more than men. So we started getting into various sports, various events and film festivals and music festivals and so on. Then within each area that we were already present in, we started focusing on women in that particular sport. So for example, if you look at soccer, which is obviously on everyone's top of mind with the recent World Cup, we went in with women's teams that we wanted to sponsor. So Arsenal, Olympique Lyon, National Women's Soccer League in the US. So we started getting into women's soccer. Rugby, you're absolutely right. Rugby, we have got it with women. And we got lots of very, very good brand ambassadors who are women. So taking that whole spirit along, now in the world of cricket as well, we said it's very natural for us, and keeping in our character of actually making sure that there is gender parity, we wanted to get into women's sport, in this case women's cricket as well.
Are you looking at tapping on or getting in more women consumers on board with this? What is the idea or thought behind it?
84% of all decision makers for purchases of various things at home are women. Now, I also am the president of Mastercard's healthcare business. Even in that space, more than 80% of all health givers or healthcare givers in any family, they're all women. So it is actually, it makes a tremendous amount of good sense to focus on women. You're not doing something charitable or in that whole thing. So we find it extremely ironical that that's how the situation is, and that was a realization several years back that we looked at and said it's not only an opportunity to do something good and right by the society, but it's also damn good for your business.
Yeah, and also you launched one particular campaign, Halke Mein Mat Lo, with in collaboration with BCCI. Also, your larger long-term collaboration for domestic title sponsorship. It took BCCI so many years to reach pay parity when it comes to women's cricket. Do you think sports requires that brand involvement to make that change happen?
I think it really helps a lot, right? Because many of the organizations, they actually go where consumers are. Because at the end of the day, they're appealing to the fans. Where the fans are, that's where the brands go. So it's sort of kind of a vicious circle in some sense. So somebody has to break that cycle, that vicious cycle. So when a brand goes and says, it doesn't matter even if the viewership is today a little lower for the women's sport, but I'm willing to put a bet on this. I'm going to invest for the future of this particular sport for women, for example, then the associations are responding to it very well. And that's what then starts sort of moving the whole cycle, and more participants are there from a fan point of view. And once one brand jumps on, the other brands which also see the benefit, and then it catches on. So in that way, really momentum can be built. And if you look at some countries like Japan, for example, which is also in some sense a very traditional kind of a society, and where male sports dominate like anything. But when this kind of an activation has been done by brands, and if you look at in the context of women's golf, like LPGA, that's actually more watched than men's golf tournaments. So that change can absolutely be brought about. and brands can play a very significant role in that.
But Raja, your larger association with BCCI and cricket as a whole, including men's cricket, stays, I think till the end of
March.
Till the end of March. Tell us about it and Mastercard's focus on cricket.
So
In the country specifically, and how does it help?
Yeah, so cricket is not something new to us. Way back, we had got associated with, I believe, Mumbai Indians at the point in time. And we had association with many, many players and legends and icons of cricket. Most recently, we have still on our board MS Dhoni as an ambassador. And we have been involved in the legends, all-star sport, all-star cricket and areas like that. So we have been involved over a period of time. And also outside of India, we have been with Team Australia, we have been with the Team West Indies in the T20. So we have been sort of playing in this space. For us, at any point in time, it's a question of what is the opportunity, what is the cost of that opportunity, what are the returns for that opportunity. So we constantly keep evaluating it because...
But the cost of the opportunity for cricket in India is very, very high.
It is high. Therefore, you have to be very thoughtful to make sure that you're getting the return.
Yeah.
It's not just putting about absolute dollars, but what am I getting in return for that as a brand and as a company? And this is an analysis we do constantly and always. And we look at our portfolio of assets that we want to get involved in and activate constantly. So in that scenario, we had recently had this opportunity to get in partnership with BCCI, and which is running out end of March. And right now we're evaluating all the options. What is it that makes most sense for us to reach the audience, connect with them, and establish our brand very strongly and build further relationship and trust with our customers.
Yeah. Raja, I'm going to ask you about the larger sports marketing outlook in general. But before that, FIFA Football World Cup, how will it, rewrite the sports marketing playbook for the days to come?
See, I don't think it'll rewrite the playbook, but what it will do is to rebalance the playbook. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the sport of soccer, it is one of the most affordable and accessible sports that you have. Already it is the largest sport, and I think it will get a tremendous amount of further impact. Secondly, whenever you're having new generation of kids coming up, it's very important to tap into them to keep a sport thriving into the future. All the sports are actually trying to do it, whether it is golf or whether it is tennis or whether it is ballet. You talk of whichever is the area, they are trying to tap into and inspire youngsters to get into that space. So when a huge event happens like the FIFA World Cup this time, it has got a lot of impact, particularly in the region. So my feeling is that there is going to be a significant surge of this sport in this geography. In areas like Latin America, Europe, it's already there humongously. Absolutely. Will I be shocked and surprised if also it starts taking root in India? I'll not be. The more the amount of excitement which is there in a recent event, the more number of kids would want to join that. And I think there is a momentum that builds in. Secondly, I think a lot of brands will also start participating in these programs involving children, not with a view to tap into the potential of the children today, but in terms of their potential into the future. Both for the underprivileged children, which is extremely important to give them an opportunity. For many of them, it keeps them off the bad things, and then they will start actively getting into sports and all the good things on that part of it. And it can produce some major winners as well. So I think brands will want to get involved in it. Like for example, at Mastercard, we participate in something called First Tee. This is making golf accessible to kids from underprivileged communities, and therefore they have a chance, and you'll have some fantastic talent coming out of it. So today, when most of the brands are there, if you look at them, they're not only doing something only purely for the business, they also have to do, because consumers are demanding that they do something for the social good as well. So you are doing well by doing good. In other words, you're being a force for good and also a force for growth for your company.
Yeah, and many brands are already, like supporting sports at grassroots, pushing in, newer players, newer names, newer faces, tapping into regions, different regions across the country. Also, your outlook for sports marketing in the coming months?
Live events, which include sports, is really taking off. And that's something which we will see an unprecedented level of momentum as we go into 2023. And then there are these global events that are always there, whether it is in terms of the next year it's going to be the year for the Rugby World Cup, as an example. That's going to have a tremendous amount of momentum in some countries where rugby is more popular, and so on. So each one of these is really coming up with a huge resurgence, and that's very encouraging because that also gives marketers more opportunities to be able to connect with consumers. And if a company like Mastercard, which is an experiential marketing company more than an advertising company, so to speak, what happens is it gives us more opportunities to curate and create those priceless experiences that are truly once in a lifetime. So we are looking at it with a lot of optimism and hope.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your insights and speaking to us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
With that, it's a wrap on Storyboard this week. You can catch all of our content on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.